This past week, over 30 million people watched Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein on Netflix. My own relationship with Mary Shelley's novel goes back decades. I wrote my college capstone project on Mary Shelley's novel, and I've taught the novel at least 5 times over my more than 30-year career as a high school English teacher. One of my publications in Dungeon magazine was an adaptation of the Frankenstein tale, here illustrated by the incomparable Tony DiTerlizzi. One of my first videos is an adaptation of Chapter 5 of the novel, painstakingly recreated with homemade 32mm sets I mostly built from scratch. I have written a D&D compatible module, Frankenstein, available at QuestGivers at the link below. And I did a video where I walked viewers through the 3 encounters in the module, illustrating them with hand-painted models on my Ultimate Dungeon terrain. And no one watched them. Those videos took weeks. The first adaptation got only about 7,000 views, and the second about the module only got about 18,000 for a total of 25,000 views. And because YouTube does not show old content, no one was ever going to see them again, until now. Today, I'll give my 2-minute review of the Frankenstein film and play those 2 original videos back to back on Dungeon Craft. Welcome to Dungeon Craft. I'm Professor DM, and if you enjoy tabletop role-playing games, please hit like and subscribe. I know everybody's tired of hearing it, but it actually does get people to like and subscribe, and it promotes this channel to other people who haven't seen it. Also, if you enjoyed the channel, you want to sign up for the Deathbringer newsletter. We're going to be kickstarting the Deathbringer RPG in May, and you want to be informed of the latest developments. You can also meet me live at PAX Unplugged later this week. There'll be a link below to tickets for that event. Frankenstein is directed by Guillermo del Toro, the auteur behind Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth, Pinocchio, and the Oscar-winning Shape of Water. Frankenstein is a tour de force that stays fairly close to Mary Shelley's classic novel. Oscar Isaac is Victor Frankenstein, stalking the screen and chewing scenery like a snarling Mick Jagger. Mia Goth plays 2 roles, the tragic Elizabeth and Frankenstein's mother. And I didn't even recognize her at first in that mother role. She is so good. And Jacob Elordi plays the sympathetic creature. And no, he is not a monster. He is a creature. And the makeup, I think, is the closest to the book that's ever been on screen. Yes, it's different from the book. Elizabeth's role is expanded, the creature is far more sympathetic, and Victor is far more cruel. But it's very close to this book, Bernie Wrightson's illustrated Frankenstein. Entire frames have been copied shot for shot, and as a fan of that book, I loved it. It also plays homage to the Universal and Hammer horror films with extravagant sets and visceral bright red blood and gore. In the novel, there are no towers or lightning bolts bringing the creature to life, but I think audiences have come to expect them, and Del Toro delivers the goods. So does everyone, not just the actors, but the costume designers and set builders and the makeup team. I love miniatures and models, and I applaud Del Toro for using miniatures and practical effects. This is what cinema should be about. Miniatures, practical effects, human actors on real sets, as opposed to doing everything in front of a green screen with CGI. And the effect here is seamless. Credit to Academy Award-winning cinematographer Dan Lostrin, who creates a visual feast where every frame is a work of art. It looks like a moving Caravaggio. There is so much going on in every frame of this film. I want to see it again. I personally enjoyed the second half a little more than the first half. So if you're bored in the first half, just stick with it. It pays off. Now, if you enjoy Dungeons & Dragons and want to bring Victor Frankenstein and his creature into your world, you want to stick around because that's coming up next. Then later, my adaptation of Chapter 5 of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, featuring one of my former students, Megan, as the voice of Mary Shelley in her first paid acting gig. Now, the sound is not as good as my more recent videos, and the resolution may not be as high as today's 1080p standards, but everything is hand-painted, and I had to light it by candlelight. I didn't have any post-editing visual effects, so everything you see is as I shot it live. And thanks to all you patrons who make this possible. And if you want to join Patreon, you get bonus videos, extended videos, private Discord, access to my DM's notebook, live plays, and more. There's a link below. Now my version of Frankenstein, compatible with Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, Shadow Dark, Dungeon Crawl Classics, or any old-school role-playing system. Just in time for Halloween, I give you 3 D&D encounters based on my new Quest Givers module, Professor Dungeon Master's Frankenstein. Today on Dungeon Craft. Welcome to Dungeon Craft. I'm Professor Dungeon Master, and this channel is about playing the ultimate game of D&D and other tabletop role-playing games.
And I'm Deathbringer. Level up your game by subscribing and click the bell icon so you'll be informed whenever we upload new content.
I love Mary Shelley's classic novel Frankenstein. I've taught it many times in the classroom, and I've adapted it for role-playing games more than once. The first time was in Dungeon issue 63, I think somewhere about there, as Jigsaw, which I wrote with Christina Stiles, who's gone on to be a prominent role-playing designer on her own, and Tony DiTerlizzi did the art before he was Tony DiTerlizzi, so that was a big thrill back in the 90s. But recently I returned to the source material with Quest Givers, DMG, and DM Scotty, and this version of Frankenstein is even more faithful to Mary Shelley's novel. And I'm going to go over 3 encounters from that module today, which you could drop into any D&D campaign. It doesn't matter whether it's 5e or OSE, it's system agnostic. The plot, just in case you don't know, a medical student named Victor Frankenstein creates a creature out of corpses, brings it to life using a chemical formula and an electrical battery. Then he promptly abandons his creature because it looks hideous. The creature returns years later as Victor is preparing to get married and demands Victor create him a mate, because society fears him. That's where the scenario begins. Victor's fiancée, Elizabeth, hires the player characters to investigate Victor's strange behavior. She fears he's having an affair, but what he's really doing is sneaking off to a secret laboratory where he's putting the final touches on a female creature. When the PCs confront Victor, he confesses to them and hires them to kill the original monster. That's when the twist occurs. The creature confronts one of the player characters when they're alone and tells his side of the story. He is a creature, not a monster. True, he's filled with rage and he did murder Victor's younger brother, but that's only because Victor made him look hideous and then abandoned him. People fear and attack him solely because of his appearance. This is why the creature wants a mate. He believes if he has a mate who looks like himself, she will fall in love with him, and he promises they will run away together and never be seen again. And he pleads with the player characters to help him attain what he believes is his only chance at true love. The first encounter is a role-playing encounter, and I don't mean with the creature. That's just the catalyst. The role-playing is going to occur when the player characters talk with each other, because there's going to be a debate over who is the real monster. Is it the creature or Victor? On one hand, the creature has killed Victor's brother, an innocent child, but on the other hand, he's sorry for it, whereas Victor thinks he's done nothing wrong. He's really an arrogant jerk. What the creature wants is perfectly reasonable. He wants what anyone else wants: true love and the opportunity to have a peaceful life and an existence where he isn't hated and hunted. I have run this adventure many, many times, and it never ceases to amaze me what happens. The players can argue for the better part of an hour trying to decide what they're going to do, and it's not because they want treasure or experience points. It's just because they're invested in this story. Some people feel, well, he's a monster, all monsters need to die. Other people feel sympathy for the creature. I've seen parties side with Victor, side with the creature, and a combination where the party actually ended up not getting into to player-on-player combat, but in the laboratory in the next scene, actually working against each other for different ends. Encounter 2 is a combat encounter and occurs in the laboratory. The creature drops through the skylight and demands his mate. Victor pours acid into the mate's skull, destroying her brain and sending the creature into a blind rage. Whenever I do a combat encounter, I think of the 3 T's from Index Card RPG: timer, threat, and treat. The timer. During the first round of combat, the creature knocks over some Bunsen burners and the lab catches on fire. The characters have D4+2 rounds before the lab explodes. The threat is the creature itself. The difficulty to hit him, 15. And it doesn't matter whether the player characters are 25th level, 5th level, or 1st level. The difficulty is always about 15. So if you've got 25th level characters, you're going to give it maybe a 35 armor class. But what they actually have to roll on the D20 is somewhere around 15, and the creature has as many hit points as all the player characters have put together. The creature has several immunities. Physical attacks do reduce damage. Lightning bolts will heal the creature back to full. Any kind of lightning-based spells instantly heal the creature back to full hit points. Fire-based spells like Fireball, Firebolt, and Flame Arrow, or any kind of Flaming Hands, will cause the lab to instantly explode. And you should explain that to the player characters in advance. Say, this is filled with bubbling, flammable liquids. The air itself is filled with flammable gas. The laboratory is also cramped and filled with medical equipment, so the player characters can't swing any sort of large weapons. they get disadvantaged for using anything but their hands. I was asked recently on the Dungeon Craft Facebook group, is there any way in 5e to make the characters do anything but the optimal attack? Like if they're a sword expert or a bow expert, is there any way not to make them use that? And the answer is, yeah, it's the circumstances you put them in. The surroundings, the environment you can put them in can limit visibility, or in this case, mobility. Now, the treat. If Victor is rescued from his flaming laboratory, he will reward the player characters with gold. And if the creature survives, then Victor will hire them to be his bodyguards for his wedding night, because the creature is going to threaten to show up on his wedding night and get his revenge. I've played this scenario dozens of times, and many times it ends right here in the laboratory with Victor or his creature being immolated and the player characters barely escaping. But in the event that they do make it out and the creature makes it out, there will be a third encounter. This time it's on Victor's wedding night. As the newly married Victor and Elizabeth head toward their honeymoon cottage, the creature takes control of their coach and drives it onto a frozen lake. The ice cracks and the coach falls through, and the player characters have only D4 plus 2 rounds before it sinks and drags the couple to a watery grave. That's the timer. The threat is the creature, who stands between the characters and the sinking coach. Also the ice, which is spiderwebbing and cracking beneath the player characters' feet. Fighting on the ice means the characters have disadvantage to all melee attack rolls. The ice itself will collapse in D4 plus 2 rounds after the fight begins. And then there's the fog, which obscures the creature from view and protects him from ranged attacks and any spells that require the caster to see their target. You see what's happening here? I'm using the terrain and the weather to disrupt the player's path dependency. They can't use their typical feats and spells in combination that they always use. The treat is rescuing Elizabeth. Victor's father is a magistrate, he's very wealthy, and he has political influence, so he can give the player characters a lot of connections and a handsome reward, even if Victor doesn't survive. But if the creature does survive, you can always have a sequel. So there are a lot of opportunities with this adventure for it to extend beyond what's written in the module itself. Timers, threats, and treats are a great way to build an encounter. If you're interested in knowing more, I would recommend Index Card RPG. The new Master Edition is coming shortly. I'll include a link to that below. I love final encounters that force the players to have to think, to get out of their comfort zone, to not rely on a typical routine list of feats and moves that are these optimized things that they always do in every single round. By changing the terrain features, adding the timer, thinking about the environment, we force the player characters out of their comfort zone, and they have to be creative if they want to overcome the challenge. If you want to check out my module Frankenstein, it's available for immediate download exclusively on questgivers.com. Questgivers, DMG, DM Scotty, they got tons of cool stuff, including the North Road campaign and more, so check them out. You can also get my other module, Macbeth, as well. You'll also find a link to Dungeon Craft on Facebook and Patreon. Tons of cool stuff there, thanks to all the patrons who make Dungeon Craft possible, and special thanks to Yappy Crafts and the Bard's Forge on Etsy, who provided the Mad Scientist miniature for this episode, which was sculpted by Great Grimoire. Links to their stores below as well. And if you love Frankenstein, you can check out my adaptation of Chapter 5 right here with all my cool miniatures and models. I'll see you soon. May all your rolls be 20s.
Deathbringer again. I once competed with Dr. Frankenstein in a bodybuilding contest, but I think he misunderstood the objective. Click on more Dungeon Craft.
Tonight on Dungeon Craft, Chapter 5 of Mary Shelley's classic horror novel, Frankenstein. You've been warned. Welcome to Dungeon Craft. I'm your host, Professor Dungeon Master, and tonight we present a very special adaptation of Mary Shelley's classic novel, Frankenstein. Published anonymously in 1818, the novel Frankenstein was an immediate sensation. It was shocking, like nothing ever published before, with scenes of child murders, grave robbing, and reanimated corpses. Some called it pornographic, others brilliant, and there was feverish speculation as to who wrote it. The author was 19-year-old Mary Shelley, wife of the poet Percy Shelley. The genesis of Frankenstein came to her in the form of a waking dream on a stormy night. Of this she wrote,
I saw, with shut eyes but acute mental vision, I saw the pale student of unhallowed arts kneeling beside the thing he had put together. I saw the hideous phantasm of a man stretched out, and then, on the working of some powerful engine, show signs of life and stir with an uneasy, half-vital motion.
Some 200 years later, the themes of Frankenstein still resonate. Genetic engineering, parental responsibility. To what extent can we extend life? Do we have a soul? Tonight on Dungeon Craft, we present a dramatic reading of Chapter 5, scene when Victor Frankenstein brings his creature to life. We've endeavored to stay as close as possible to the source material. You're not going to see any castles, no assistants named Igor, no monsters brought to life with lightning bolts. That's the stuff of Universal horror films. Victor Frankenstein is not a doctor, he's a medical student. He brings the creature to life in an apartment, not a castle. It's not called a monster, well, Victor calls it a monster. It calls itself a creature. And we're never told how that creature is brought to life, probably so we can't recreate Victor Frankenstein's hideous experiments. But context clues suggest it's a silent birth. Victor probably used chemicals. No lightning bolts are involved. We hope you enjoy our adaptation, and if you haven't read the novel Frankenstein, we hope you check it out for yourself. And now, Chapter 5 of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It was on a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected the instruments of life around me, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. It was already 1 a.m. The rain pattered dismally against the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out, when, by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. How can I describe the wretch? Great God! His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of a lustrous black and flowing, his teeth of a pearly whiteness, but these luxuriances only formed a more horrid contrast with his watery eyes, his shriveled complexion, and his straight, black lips. I had worked hard for nearly 2 years for the sole purpose of infusing life into an inanimate body. But now that I had finished, the beauty of the dream vanished, and breathless horror and disgust filled my heart. Oh, no mortal could support the horror of that countenance. A mummy again, endued with animation, could not be so hideous as that wretch. Unable to endure the aspect of the being I had created, I rushed out of the room and continued a long time traversing my bedchamber, unable to compose my mind to sleep. At length, I threw myself on the bed in my clothes, endeavoring to seek a few moments of forgetfulness. But it was in vain. I slept, indeed, but I was disturbed by the wildest dreams. I thought I saw Elizabeth, in the bloom of health, walking in the streets of Ingolstadt. Delighted and surprised, I embraced her, but as I imprinted the first kiss upon her lips, they became livid with the hue of death. Her features appeared to change, and I thought that I held the corpse of my dead mother in my arms. A shroud enveloped her form, and I saw the grave worms crawling in the folds of the flannel. I started from my sleep with horror. A cold dew covered my forehead, my teeth chattered, and every limb became convulsed, when, by the dim and the yellow light of the moon as it forced its way through the window shutters, I beheld the wretch, the miserable monster whom I had created. He held up the curtain of the bed, and his eyes, if eyes they may be called, were fixed upon me. His jaws opened, and he muttered some inarticulate sounds, while a grin wrinkled his cheeks. He might have spoken, but I did not hear. One hand was stretched out seemingly to detain me, but I escaped and rushed downstairs. Morning, dismal and wet, at length dawned. I did not dare return to the apartment which I inhabited, but felt impelled to hurry on, drenched by the rain which poured from a black and comfortless sky. I don't know about you, but I'm scared. I'll until the next time, this is Professor Dungeon Master for Dungeon Craft. I'll see you at the table, and may all your future rolls be natural 20s.
He actually included credits and put himself twice. How insufferable. The real monster is his ego. Anyway, click on these videos for more Dungeon Craft.